We've got an Answers News video that we're going to share with you guys this week. And yes, I'm using the royal we. I should say I'm going to share with you. Hi, guys, it's X. And coming at you once again with another Answers News video. This one from about 2 weeks ago. And it's the good doctor herself saying, is abortion good for the economy? And I want you to pick up right at the very beginning here when she starts talking about this lady's name. She digs really heavy into the Clinton part of it. And it's kind of nuts. Can't wait to share it with you. Here we go.
Chelsea Clinton claims that abortion added $3.5 trillion to the economy. So this has hit the headlines a lot. And
oh, she mispronounced her name. It's not Chelsea Clinton claims. I thought she was saying somebody else's name. It's Chelsea Clinton claims that abortion added $3.5 trillion to the economy, according to her source, which is ChristianHeadlines.com. That's a biased source if I've ever heard of one.
So one of the things, I would say just first off, abortion is wrong because it murders an image bearer of God, period.
The fuck does that mean? An image bearer of God because we're created in God's image? Is that what you're trying to say? God's one ugly motherfucker. Case in point. I mean, has he got a bald head and a goatee and crow's feet showing up on his eyes? God's ugly. I mean, I'm super fucking hairy. I got weird knuckles. Look at these pinky knuckles. These things are weird. You're murdering an image bearer of God. Fuck you.
Okay, it is wrong. Besides economics, besides all that, that's why it's wrong. But
why? Why is it wrong? What do you base your morality on, Christians? You are the ones that have the objective morality. Right? Isn't that what it is? Where, you have an authority that tells you that something is wrong. But it doesn't ever bother to tell you why that thing is wrong. Abortion's not bad. It's in your Bible. It says so right there. It made a strong drink for her to get rid of the baby or whatever the hell it says. And I'm not going to quote scripture because I don't care about your fucking book. That's like me coming to you and starting to quote different parts of comic books that I like to read or, Star Wars stuff. I could do this shit all day. Oh, that's a Captain America reference there. Hey, how about that?
What she's trying to do is argue that because women had the right to have an abortion, they were able to abort their children, which meant they were able to stay in the workforce, and they added $3.5 trillion. So abortion is good for the U.S. from an economic perspective.
If those women were forced to have those children, and they had to, let's just go with your spurious way of thinking here. Spurious, what the hell was that thinking? Spurious way of going with your argument. Let's go ahead and get started with this. If you force those women out of the workforce, they would not be making the same amount of income once that child was at a state where it could take care of itself and she would be able to return to the workforce. I mean, maybe you will run into the occasional family where the mom does go straight back to work and it's the dad that has to raise the child. Happens sometimes. Couples raise them together. And I'm not saying that it's locked into just male and female coupling there, people. I'm just using shorthand here. But adding $3.5 trillion to the economy, are you going to give us more of where that comes from? Because all I see is that women were able to avoid the pregnancies they didn't want to have, which should be their choice. And thankfully right now still is their choice. And that made it so they could stay in the workforce where they are. If they had dreams and aspirations of reaching a certain level before having children, they are able to continue doing that. What you guys want is for women to become chattel, become servitude, to put them into breeding stock, having it so women have to have these children. They have to carry these children for 9 months and they have to give birth to them. And then after they're born, if they're poor people, fuck those kids. We don't care about those kids. Or you bring them to a Mormon ward house and they'll be molested just like the Catholics or... God, people in religion seem to like diddling kids a lot. That's gross. What would you guys do with the kids? Answers in Genesis. What would you do? Let them come on tours of things? You'd probably put them to work. That's the kind of shit you guys would do.
That's her viewpoint. And she says it added about $3.5 trillion to the economy. Bingo! Somebody in the audience nailed it.
Yep.
There's almost 60 million just in the United States that have been put to death, babies.
60 million in the United States put to death. How many of those were by God's hand? According to you guys, every single one of them. 60 million. Are you talking about ever since Roe versus Wade became a thing? Because let me tell you, they were doing abortions before Roe versus Wade. They've been doing them as long as women have been having children. They've been finding ways to make it so they don't have to have the children. But 60 million in the workforce, and I think if you're going to try to do this whole switcheroo where you're going to be like 3.5 trillion divided by 60 million equals blah, 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 there could have been more money in the economy if they kept those children. Wrong, wrong, wrong.
Imagine if they were alive, grown up, paying taxes all this time since 1973. The average American spends about $10,500 on taxes per year.
See, called it right there. See, right on the fucking nose. These people are just being fast and loose with their math, and they're going to somehow claim that each one of those children that was, quote unquote, put to death would be a responsible member of society, would be a taxpayer. That's not, being a taxpayer is not throwing money into the economy. Them being able to spend their money on things puts money into the economy. Taxes have fuck all to do with the economy. I mean, of course, you can get into line item things where you're like, okay, well, if you have to pay this much on taxes, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about how they said income was up by 3.5 trillion, added more money to the economy, I should say. That happens when the poor people and the middle class people spend the money that they have. That puts money into the economy. The only reason I didn't use rich there is because we have graphs and charts and numbers that show that the rich of the rich don't really spend hardly anything. I mean, they might spend some money, but when you look at percentage of what they have and what they bring home, it's very little compared to middle class and low class, where it's more of a higher percentage of their actual yearly income goes toward goods and services and feeding the beast of capitalism.
I mean, if you tally that up for the 60 million kids that are missing, and put that per year, each year going back, for 40 years or so here, we have enough money. There would be no national debt. Imagine, too.
There'd still be a national debt. You guys don't understand economics at all. Because the government would continue to spend the money that it doesn't have, and therefore adding to the debt. It has nothing to do with how many children are born or not born. And he's also making the assumption that all of those 60 million children happen to be murdered on the same day. I just find it funny that they consider removing a clump of cells as murder. Get the fuck out of here.
Imagine all these, out of the 60 million or so, some of them are going to start businesses. Some of these businesses are probably going to explode, be multi-billion-dollar businesses that are also paying taxes.
And then maybe one of those kids will discover aliens, and then the other one's going to find Santa's workshop, and then another one is going to find lipstick and lollipops and wonderful things hidden inside mom's couch, and then suffocate underneath the pillows while she's trying to climb inside there. Yeah, you could think of all sorts of crazy fucking what-ifs when you're doing this stuff, but that's right. You guys are the religion that bases everything on a wizard did it.
Yeah, 3.5 trillion is nothing.
It's a poor argument.
Nothing.
I mean, it's a poor argument, period. From a biblical perspective, economics never outweighs the value of human life, right? From a biblical perspective.
I bet whoever has that crying child in the audience wish they had an abortion there. I mean, I kind of think that they should have. Because you don't bring a fucking crying kid to a show like that.
We know that. But we're saying, even if you look at this from an economic perspective, this argument fails dramatically. And we did an article last week on China and the problem with their limiting births, because guess what? Now you don't have a lot, you're missing all these people. You've got an aging population who's not going to be able to work.
But they still have a gigantic fucking population. And they're trying to keep that under control because they couldn't feed, house, keep happy everybody that was being born in that country. So they decided to turn it down to a one-child rule. Unfortunately, because it's a very masculine-driven society still, People didn't want to have the girls, and I bet you she's going to bring this up, and it's going to be ridiculous.
So how do you maintain your workforce? I mean, how do you maintain people even to take care of those that are aging?
Well, as long as you're willing to pay somebody to be taken care of, then there will be the workforce there. Might be kind of expensive. Are you talking like we're rapidly getting rid of the workforce in our own country, and we're going to have people that are going to be completely out of work here pretty soon because the robots are doing their jobs for them. You have fast food places, they're going to have robots, and it's going to lose a lot of jobs there. You guys remember that movie Logan when it was the somewhat near future here in America, and there were autonomous trucks driving around, cargo trucks driving around? That's next, and that's going to be a lot of fucking people out of a job. The jobs are not what you should be worried about. The economy is not what you should be worried about. It should be, ladies and gentlemen from Answers in Genesis, leaving the people that want to have an abortion the fuck alone, and not come up with all these crazy headlines where you're like, well, Chelsea Clinton said this thing. Who fucking cares what Chelsea Clinton said? Does she have anything to do with your guys' life? Is she trying to remove the arc-shaped tit from your mouth? No, she doesn't give a shit whether you have a park in Kentucky. She might even come through and look at it and be like, wow, that's a tremendous waste of money. But she's not going to affect your day-to-day, so why do you guys let it twist you out of shape so fucking bad? She's the daughter of a politician. She's probably going to go into politics herself. The reason I get all twisted out of shape about you people is because I'm running an entertainment channel, and this is a lot of fun for me.
And so they're seeing that as a real problem, which we're starting to feel as well here in the United States.
You know, there was a commenter or a commentator here, Eric Erickson, that pointed out that Clinton's argument here sounded like the pro-slavery arguments from the 1800s.
Pro-slavery arguments from the 1800s. On one hand, let's get rid of the children that will be raised in destitution and not have a good enough life, and will probably end up as a drain on society because they will not have everything that's afforded to them. Not all of them, mind you. A bunch of them, I'm sure. Versus, let's have people into servitude and bondage. You know, there's a saying on the Rick and Morty show where they say that just sounds like slavery with extra steps. That's exactly what you guys are talking about when you're talking about putting people into the capitalist system that we have in this country. Capitalism is essentially slavery with a little bit more freedom. I mean, I like it. I get all sorts of fun little baubles. I get to have like a little Simpsons car. I can have my LaCroix drink whenever I'm doing the show. I might be under servitude, but at least I enjoy what I do. I'm sure there were slaves that might have enjoyed what they did. We'll never know. But aborted kids are not the same thing as slaves.
Mm-hmm. It does.
They're like, hey, it helps out our economy. Who cares about the morality of it?
Right.
It can help out our economy.
Yep.
You know what? As soon as you throw morality out the door for economics, you've already defeated your whole purpose.
Oh, so capitalism then. Because if we were to actually have let the market decide argument that you guys like to have is that, you know, the market will fix itself. We don't have to worry about making sure that there's regulations on this stuff. You know, let's get rid of all that quote unquote morality within the market and let's just let it do its own thing. That's what capitalism wants it to be, but we have to put regulations on it. Otherwise, you get giant lakes of pig shit like the ones in North Carolina that are about to start flowing over because capitalism. I mean, what the fuck else can I say?
Yep, exactly. So that's what we need to understand. There's no argument that's ever good when it comes to abortion.
I mean, I could take it personal and be like, you're ugly, you should never have kids. I mean, that's a pretty good argument. I mean, I shouldn't have had kids. Look at this mug.